It's Hollywood Night Heat with your host, MustacheMan Andy Thom, and his perennial guest.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Night Heat. We have a very special episode planned again. We're going to do another segment of May I Suggest? Jeff suggests something you might want to check out. I don't know. Maybe a movie, maybe some music. So I'm going to let Jeff go first. Because he has something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he's going to suggest. He could suggest larceny.
I don't think I would.
But, yeah. Go ahead, Jeff. Suggest something to these fine people.
The Gorge is a movie that delivers exactly what it promises. Relentless action, stylish horror elements with a fresh visual energy. It's the kind of movie that gently places its hand on your back, leading you in with its slow burn mystery, and then grabs a fistful of your shirt and yanks you full bore into its world like some asshole bus driver who wants to kill himself, you, and everyone else on board. And for much of its runtime, this approach works. The action is fun, the horror elements creep in at just the right points, and the scope of some of its set pieces are nice and ambitious. Director Scott Derrickson, who I feel a certain kinship with for reasons known only to me, knows how to stage tension, and once it kicks in, he keeps the film's adrenaline pumping with a sense of urgency that for the most part doesn't leak. The performances are committed, the cinematography is slick, and the world building is just compelling enough to make you want to keep watching. But for all its high-octane thrills and fairly well-executed horror, The Gorge ultimately feels like when you cut a dry fart. Satisfying at first, but afterwards you ruminate on how much better and louder that fart could have been if you had just eaten more broccoli or burritos. Or broccoli burritos. It's an adventure without consequences. A story that flirts with darkness but never fully commits. Just when it seems like the movie might take a risk, might push its characters into something truly horrific, it pulls back, retreating into the safety of the blockbuster convention.
Thanks.
And for me, that's where the frustration lies. The reason I keep referring to the horror in this as horror is because despite how cool the creatures might be in design, their on-screen presence is similar to the CG vampires from I Am Legend, or the jackals from The Mummy Returns, or dare I say it, the Chitauri from The Avengers. The fear they instill is very little. The action has its moments, but the stakes never feel real. And by the time the credits roll, you realize that for all its attempts at fear and spectacle, The Gorge is like that scene from Quiet Library, where the old man walks out from behind the bookshelves, removes his dentures, and gums the poor unfortunate contestant's neck and ear. It's a movie that has bite, but no teeth, not even fake ones. Would I recommend it? Sure, if you're looking for an entertaining popcorn flick to watch with the wife and kid after dinner on a Wednesday night. It's fun, well-crafted, delivers a decent dose of genre entertainment, and Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy are likable as the two bestest snipers in the whole wide world. But great action horror should not only excite you, it should haunt you. The Gorge seems to be more worried about appealing to its female audience by giving them a happy ending that wraps everything up in a pretty pink bow than what it should have been. A movie fully committed to being a true action horror film with a tragic, lingering ending that I am sure writer Zach Dean created in his first draft, but was then forced to water down by the dreaded studio executives. I mean, he had to have written a dark ending that rivaled Evil Dead 2 or Halloween 3, right? Right?
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Now, Andy, you might be wondering why I decided to put this in our May I Suggest segment.
I am, yeah.
Well, as frustrating as it was, I had a good time watching it. There was a time in the middle of the movie where I was on the edge of my seat. I was leaning forward. I was like, oh, my jaw was open with a smile on my open-mouthed face. And then I realized that this movie isn't that movie. It's a genre film, It's a great premise, right? What, they're guarding the gates of hell?
Is that what this is? I had no idea. I thought they were mountain climbers. So wait, he's a sniper and he shoots devils to come out of hell?
Well, that's how they get you into it.
The gorge is the door to hell. And we're standing guard at the gate.
And then you find out, there's
They're just Sherpa. He's just shooting Sherpa off a mountain.
There are creatures. There's CG.
Okay.
And like I said, they basically carry no weight. There's one really good jump scare that made me, levitate a couple feet off the couch. But I feel like at least they tried, It's a genre film. It's got monsters in it, basically, not monsters. I thought there was going to be like a Godzilla type of creature coming out of that thing. Yeah. And so I'm suggesting you guys see it so that I want to know what you guys think. Honestly, I really do. I want you to see it. I want you, even though I basically ruined it for you because you thought they were mountain climbers. Yeah. You had no idea.
Did you know they were guarding hell? Or whatever,
I saw the trailer and I was like, that's all I need to see.
That sounds great. It's already because I had. Trust me, I heard the name and I was like, and I knew it was those two people. I was like, man, there's no interest at all, and I moved on, forgot about it. But now that you're saying this, now I'm like interested. I'm like, okay, if this is any type of supernatural. Now, if they go, all that stuff we were hinting at, none of that is real, then I'd be disappointed.
Yeah, I think you would be disappointed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's
okay.
It's funny because you got like Scott Derrickson, who's a horror filmmaker. He directed the first Doctor Strange, and before that, I forget the movie that he did. It was maybe The Exorcism and Emily Rose or something like that. And the rumor was he got fired off of Doctor Strange 2 because he wanted to make it more scary. He wanted to embrace all the horror elements of...
I said I don't want to do just another sequel to do a sequel. If I'm going to do it, it has to go into the territory that drew me into the Doctor Strange comics in the first place. We're going to make the first scary MCU film.
You know what excites me about Doctor Strange?
What?
The fact that Benedict Cumberbatch plays him.
But
wasn't that the one that was the scary one?
That was Sam Raimi. And it's like...
But that was Doctor Strange 2, right?
Yeah. And that was Scott Derrickson that started, I think, pre-production on it. And I think what it was that like Kevin Feige met Sam Raimi and Sam said, I really like Doctor Strange. You know what, Scott? You're fired. We got Sam Raimi. Mm-hmm. And hey, I love Sam Raimi. That guy's got a style to him.
Thanks for having me.
And Scott Derrickson, I feel bad for him, but this movie is the biggest. It's on Apple Plus, and it's their biggest opening ever for a movie that they've done. And I was disappointed because I thought it was out in theaters. It might be, for all I know. But
I thought it was too.
The thing I wanted to talk about real quick about it is, I'm trying to be. I'm an aspiring screenwriter, right? I've written a sequel to Tango and Cash called "It Takes Two to Tango and Cash," and I'm writing a horror film right now that my partner Ben Bates are developing into a comic book, and it's hard for me because I'm thinking like a jaded film goer where I can predict what's happening. They're going to make it out of here because they both need to get to this next part of the movie that I can kind of predict. And but meanwhile, my wife and daughter are totally like, oh, gotta, and it's like, how come I'm not feeling that? It's because the movie didn't do its job for me, although it was doing its job where I was sitting on the edge of my seat going, where is this movie going? So me as an aspiring screenwriter, I'm thinking like, am I making? Do I need to add a character?
Okay. All right. Well, I'll look for it.
All right.
Here's my suggestion. There are comic books, and then there are Fletcher Hanks comic books, where cosmic gods with fists the size of Cadillacs punish evildoers with nightmare logic and the kind of justice usually reserved for Old Testament prophets and angry toddlers. Turn Loose Our Death Rays and Kill Them All is not just a book, it's a portal to an alternate dimension, one where the laws of storytelling, anatomy, and basic human decency have all been thrown out the window in favor of raw, unhinged creativity. Hanks, an early Golden Age cartoonist whose work reads like if Superman comics were rewritten by a vengeful alien warlord, specialized in tales where heroes like Stardust, the Super Wizard, and Phantoma, the mystery woman of the jungle, spend a solid 98% of their time ruthlessly obliterating criminals. Stardust, who is less a superhero and more of an intergalactic war crime in human form, has at various points in this collection turned gangsters into frozen statues, then smashed them into ice cubes, transformed a villain's head into a literal fireball before yeeting him into space, used an eliminator ray to disassemble bad guys at the molecular level for the crime of existing, and he magically reversed a skyscraper explosion because physics is his plaything. Hanks' stories follow an ironclad formula. A group of crooks hatch an insanely specific and needlessly convoluted crime, like let's steal all the world's oxygen, or let's kidnap all the important scientists and feed them to an electric octopus. Stardust or Phantoma, hovering like omnipotent gods, wait until the criminals have really dug themselves into a deep hole, then swoop in to dish out punishments so over the top it feels like Hanks was actively working out some personal grudges. Hanks's art is a thing of haunted beauty. The colors are garish, the figures slightly off in ways that feel unsettling, and the dialogue is stiff, repetitive, and full of ominous proclamations as if the characters are permanently locked in a 1930s radio drama broadcast from the edge of sanity. If you love Golden Age comics, outsider art, or simply watching villains get obliterated in ways that defy the laws of nature and common sense, may I suggest you check out Turn Loose Our Death Rays and Kill Them All. It's an absolute must-read. Fletcher Hanks wasn't just ahead of his time, he was on a completely different timeline. And the book is proof that his bizarre, brutal genius still burns bright.
Wow! Stardust! Oh! There it is! Is that a passion?
I didn't even show this up. No, it's not a it's Fantagraphics.
Damn.
Have mercy. This is one of the villains. You know, I think, no, it's not Jip.
Comet Head?
His character, Jip Clip is a slur, actually. Did you when you say, oh, that I got gypped?
Yeah.
That's a slur against gypsies.
Oh, no, I didn't
You
realize.
don't say it. So now I would say I got ripped off. So anyways, but this guy was obviously a gypsy, so we called him the Gyp. Okay, I first found out about this guy when I got the first collection of his stuff called I Shall Destroy All Civilized Planets. I heard that title. I'm like, what the f is that? Right? So I went and got it, and I was blown away. I was like, this guy is nuts. Like, it's crazy. You know Basil Wolverton?
Yeah.
So it's his art is kind of like that. It's kind of weird.
Well, I'm familiar with Stardust and
Oh, yeah?
Phantoma, but
Oh, okay.
I mean just as drawings. But you know, I've seen some of the strips, but
It wasn't like this. There was a Stardust comic that was out. It was just these second-rate publishers that were putting this stuff out. So it was hard to compile this. You know, because in this collected volume, it has like how hard it was to find all this stuff and put it together and get it all in one volume.
look at all the work we did.
Yeah. He has all these odd characters, like Big Red McLean, King of the Northwoods. He's like a lumberjack. Basically, you find out that Fletcher Hanks is not a good guy. So that kind of puts a little sour note on this, because the guy who compiled this, he just looked him up. This is back in the day. He looks up Fletcher Hanks, finds his name in the yellow pages or the white pages, travels to this place, finds his son, and his son basically tells him that Fletcher Hanks was a drunk, he was an abusive, he beat his mom, he beat him, he left when he was 10 years old and they never saw him again. So he's a piece of shit. Fletcher Hanks is a piece of shit.
Dang.
His son was probably in his 80s at the time, and he was telling the story how his dad was a piece of shit.
My dad was a piece of shit.
But it's crazy because this I had since seen several Neil Breen movies, and if you guys don't know who Neil Breen is, you should really, if you're a fan of this channel, you should watch some Neil Breen or at least clips of Neil Breen movies.
These people must be punished. I resign today as president of the bank. Agree during justices. Goodbye.
Neil Breen casts himself. He stars in his own movies, and at the end, he dishes out this justice to the corrupt politician. They kill themselves, and it's just this really bizarre. And I think when I said Fletcher Hanks is working out some demons, or he's got some stuff he's working through, I really believe that, because a lot of his justice that his characters deals out is vicious. I mean, Stardust is probably 8 feet tall, and he grabs people and he squeezes the fuck out of them. So they're like. So he'll grab a guy around his ribcage with one hand and squeeze him, and then he flies him around. He took one guy to an island in the middle of the ocean. He hovers the island, flips it upside down, so now the jagged pieces are sticking up, throws him on the island, and then the guy's crawling on the jagged rocks, and then a golden octopus comes out of the water and then eats the guy. That's okay. I'm just confused about what. There's one time where he hovered a bunch of skeletons of their victims. These are the victims that this gang is taking out. And then they just hover next to him. For how long? And he goes, and then they're just staring at him. So these guys are just staring at these skeletons. And then he lets them down, and then he kills. Oh, he got all the guys, he took the gang and morphed them into one person. So one guy. Wow. And then I think he jettisons this dude into a hole in space. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm mixing this up. There's so many things he does. So this guy, have mercy. You know what happens to this guy? So Stardust gets him and he shrinks his body. His body shrinks and he becomes just a head. So so he's just a head.
Yeah.
And he takes the head.
Okay.
He flies into space with him. There's a hole. See that? That's a space hole or something he calls it. Throws his head into that's where he's saying, have mercy. He throws the head through this hole to this dimension where there's this headless giant. It's just a big bulky thing. Then the giant grabs his head and then sticks it on his body. Then the head gets absorbed into the body. That's his death. That's it. Yeah. So his deaths are amazing. The one villains, they decide to stop the Earth from revolving somehow. That obviously stops gravity from working. So every human, but the villains, they say, well, because they know that everything is gravity's going to stop, so everyone's going to float into space on the planet. Mm-hmm. And it works. But what they did, they said, well, what we got to do first is we got to bolt ourselves down and we're going to magnetize the automobiles so they stay on the ground. So they didn't want to lose the auto. And they did something with the water on the planet so the water won't get sucked into space.
What do they do with the water on the planet? Put this in net.
And there's a panel where they got these big belts and these chains, and they're just standing on there. And the people are floating. Everyone on the Earth is floating. I think that's the one where he gets the gang and he makes them into one person.
That's a great idea.
But anyways, very twisted stuff. Very dark. From a very twisted mind and a dark dude, man. He's not a good dude, which kind of tarnishes it for me. But if you like that type of, obviously I'm a huge B-movie fan. I'm a huge, I like stuff that's a little odd and different, and this stuff is right up my alley. But anyways, Fletcher Hanks, check him out. Good stuff. And The Gorge. All right, cheers, big ears. Thanks for joining us. May I suggest? See you later.
Crocodile. Did Gene hurt his
We gotta fire that. Widow. Yes. a widow.
Tonight's episode of Hollywood Night Heat was filmed after Andy and Jeff's bedtime.
What'd they say?
8 p.m.
What'd they say?
I didn't say.
You're supposed to.